The unbelievable rise of stocks has been unfazed throughout this period of trauma, of stress, and of ultimate chaos. Look around and the stats have ranged from below normal to absolutely horrible. What's the solution? Growth. Growth will fix it all. And what we can't grow out of will just add more taxation to fill the gaps. What a load of garbage. But I guess people are servants to their overlords anyway. They'll accept what they're given, regardless of how bad it gets. Just give them their panem et circenses, their bread and circus. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. That's the reality of what we're dealing with today. There are so many people that are suffering. What do? They go to the food bank, they line up, and they hope that they get their job back. Nothing is being done to actually fix the problem. It's always a band-aid fix, and we always see the money flowing in to the richest of the rich. Understand what's happening today. You've got the Federal Reserve buying up corporate debt. That is a bailout for the corporations. Are they bailing out the mom and pops? No, they're not. They are bailing out Apple, buying the debt of the biggest corporation in the world. They are out there trying to expand this monopoly that they have over the financial system. They own and control everything. We need to start understanding that the majority of people that are so-called informed do not know what's happening. That's why when you come to this channel, I know that you're one of the few who actually wants to know what's going on. Today, we're going to talk about the delinquencies. We're going to talk about real estate. We are going to look at interest rates, of course, and inflation. Inflation is such a huge topic right now because we are seeing it. Look at the food inflation, for instance. That is very apparent, but it comes in other forms. There's so much more in here. Let me get into it right away. This company here, Black Knight Inc., goes through and tells you all the different delinquencies, all the data that's related to real estate, all the data that's sort of interconnected with it. And in their latest report, August 21st, that data, but it's actually pulling July's information. They tell you that overall delinquencies apparently have gotten better, but serious delinquencies, those 90 or more days past due, rose by 376,000 and are now up to more than 1.8 million from levels before 2020. They point out something here that foreclosure activity continues to remain muted due to the widespread moratoriums. This is important as well because all of these different policies that have been put in place, whether that's giving people money, whether that has been the stimulus checks, whether that has been the moratoriums on evictions, or any other form of delayed problem, this will not end well. We know that. We have looked into this on so many levels. We know this. But for the time being, things look okay or controllable, manageable, and so on. But when you start to break it down and realize that this can't go on forever, they are going to be faced with serious problems in the future. The deficits are getting worse every single day. The debt is getting worse every single day. And what are they doing? They're increasing the level of inflation or the or simply allowing for higher levels of inflation here to hopefully erode the amount of debt that has been accumulating. What an absolute joke, because the people at the bottom are the ones that are going to suffer even more, because when you look at what makes up their income, it is all going to the rent, to their food, their utilities, and so on. You break it down, you've got nothing left. Their inflation is going to be running hot, and their wage inflation will not. Okay, so that is very important to understand. Let's look at the next one. This is out of the Washington Post, but it's essentially pulling from the same data. And as it shows you at the top, overall mortgage delinquency numbers are improving, but the delinquency rate for homeowners who are seriously behind in their payments is soaring, another indication of a bifurcated housing market. I think all of these numbers are skewed right now. I don't think we're getting any accurate data because, like I said, everything is simply delayed and pushed off into the future. There are people that are getting money today who won't be able to pay tomorrow. They were getting extra money or they got that stimulus check. Maybe it helped them for a period of time, but eventually they must face the music. Remember, the jobs scenario is getting worse as we go. Yes, the unemployment rate measured as the U3 is going down. It's approximately 10% or so. But when you look at the actual rate of unemployment, it is significantly worse than that. But nobody wants to hear about that. The good news is that the overall delinquencies are trending downward. And in fact, the number of newly delinquent homeowners has fallen far below the levels that we had prior to 2020. Of course, forgetting to mention a certain key stat in there. But anyway, however, while this indicates that the inflow of delinquencies has subsided, the number of homeowners who have missed 3 or more payments is now at a 10-year high. More than 85% of these borrowers were in forbearance as of the end of July, making it clear that economic distress continues to impact their ability to make mortgage payments. It remains to be seen how those loans will perform as we move on into the fall. I am very curious to see how we progress through the next few months, that's for sure. Bubble watch, 5.5% of mortgages in California are delinquent. Imagine how many people right now are not paying their bills. Now you got to think to yourself, some are getting these forbearance, they're allowed to push that off into the future, but know that that money still has to be paid. It doesn't just disappear, you've got to pay it at some point. People who are doing this, in general, most of them don't have the money to pay. That's why they're doing this. A lot of people, they just pay their bills, even though if they're allowed to stretch it out, they just pay their bills now, and that's the way it is. Some of them feel that I might as well keep the money in my pocket for this period, but then all of a sudden there's going to be this big payment at the end. It's not a smart thing to do for a lot of people. If they have the money, usually they're paying up just as they were previously, and that's just the way it is. California delinquencies have risen from 1.8% in February. Yes, they've tripled in a period of unprecedented economic volatility. This is just one example. It is significant because we have to watch the trends, and I'll show you something else in this video here about Miami, so stay tuned. More than half of all storefronts in San Francisco are no longer in business. Think about that for a second here. More than half of all storefronts are no longer in business. What does that mean? Well, of course, first of all, it is a survey, so we only know about a certain percentage, and so the data is obviously skewed. But the significance here must be understood. The survey showed only 46% of storefront businesses in San Francisco that were open at the beginning of this situation, 2020, are still operating. That means 1,200 stores are still open and about 1,300 have closed. There's a lot of reasons for that. We know what's been happening in so many places, but I keep hearing about a disparity where you have certain people in certain areas of the United States saying everything is fine. I'm seeing unicorns as I ride down the street. There are rainbows day and night outside, and fluffy kittens follow me into my dreams. And then other people are saying, I'm seeing the lineups, I'm seeing the problems, I'm seeing the dark clouds. So it depends in where you live specifically, and also how much you're willing to accept in. Some people will not allow themselves to believe what's going on for real. They think that because maybe they've got a 401k, maybe they've over leveraged themselves in some way, maybe they have excessive debt, maybe they have something to lose, and so they're in denial. I don't know what the situation is, but I have been pulling the stats and I've been hearing from people all over the place, not just in the United States, but of course all over the world. And this information continues to pop up. So I want you please to write something in the comments wherever you are, either the country or the city you're from. Let me know what you see around you, because I can't be in every city. Neither can all of those who are reading these comments. So definitely put something there, even if it's just a couple words. It helps us all learn. Thank you for that. I found some more V-shaped recovery information here. This is definitely V-shaped. American Airlines is cutting 19,000 jobs when federal aid expires in October. Usually you do this as a threat. Hey, we're going to get rid of 19,000 people unless you give us some bailout money. What happened the first time around? We've been talking about this a lot. But anyway, here's just another example. All of the airlines, all the manufacturers, all of those businesses surrounding tourism and travel are suffering, and this is one very obvious example. For months, restrictions on indoor dining have forced restaurants across the country to rely on outdoor seating to survive. As the weather gets colder, that lifeline is going away, and restaurant operators are scrambling to figure out what to do next. So it's very early at this point, but in a few months, going to be a lot of major cities that are too cold for outdoor dining. And as they say here, everybody is scared of the winter right now. Restaurants are still losing money regardless of delivery and takeout and outdoor dining. They're still not being profitable and they're still having problems paying rent. This is what I'm talking about here. We've got serious issues going on today with the restaurant industry, which is one of the biggest employers. I was talking with somebody about this. They're suggesting things are okay because they're making changes and they'll get through it. But only some will get through it. Others will not, and that is very clear here. For the majority, in fact, there's just no way. Because if they're not profitable for an extended period, my goodness, if they were closed for 2 months, plus an extension, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, however long it is, of not being profitable, how long can one business last? This article here is talking about inflation. It's titled, "The Great Inflation Debate is Heating Up with Trillions at Stake." And I just wanted to point out a couple things, particularly these two charts. Take a look at this. Annual change in the M2 money supply. I know I've highlighted this before, but you can see that it has escalated dramatically in 2020. You know that. At the bottom here is the velocity of money. It said it's not circulating. The velocity of money is simply falling off a cliff. It's going in the opposite direction. So much money is being pumped in, liquidity is being pumped in, but the velocity is declining. I would say this in a different way. The more money that they print up into this system, whether it's loaned out or whether it is coming from the fiat garbage central bank, it is flooding the system. And as a result, that cash, that digital currency fiat, is not going to the economy. We need to understand it. It's going to buy debt of companies like Apple. Think about how crazy this is, but they tell you every single day, we're there to fix it. We have the PPP loans, we have the small business loans. We're going to go out there and chant and cheer and make sure that the economy is strong because we've got good people that are there to help us and so on. It is absolute nonsense. The people out there wear their suits and ties so that they can distract the public from the puppet masters behind them. But every single time I see people getting swindled by this, and nobody understands the basics of how this works. You put a bunch of suits and ties in front of the public, you get them to believe you, and you give them their panem et circenses. This is an article out of CNBC, but it goes directly with what we were just talking about a moment ago. The Fed and any central bank always has to be careful of what they wish for when they want higher inflation. Higher inflation is typically associated with a higher cost of living, reduced purchasing power for the average consumer, and also higher interest rates. And I think that's not the kind of environment we should be rooting for. Very, very good point. I'm really glad that this was put so concisely here. So think about this for a second here. You've got individuals, bottom 50%, maybe even higher, that are basically drowning at any moment. They can't go on any further. And then you're going to pump up the inflation on top of that. You are going to punish them. You're going to have higher rates of unemployment. You're going to have people who do not survive as a result of this. There are going to be businesses that go under. But in addition to that, he points out interest rates. Nobody thinks that interest rates can go higher, but they don't know how it works. Because of course, in order to stop the inflation, which you you can't control. Don't make the central bank think they've got it under control in the way that they tell you at all of these FOMC meetings and so on. Look at what happened with the repo crisis. They buried that information. They tried to bury it, and you look at all the data and it was anything but. The point is, as we see inflation picking up, there is only one way to snuff it out, and that is higher interest rates. A buyer's market. Condo supply soars in downtown Miami. The supply of unsold condos is growing in downtown Miami as the situation of 2020 continues to pummel South Florida's economy. Greater downtown Miami has more than 30 months or 2.5 years of supply of condos and 100 months or more than 8 years of supply of luxury units. Unbelievable. This is just one place, but we are going to see the stats piling up, and all they're telling you is that, look, things were heading up, then we had this big problem, so everything came down, but the government's going to come out and fix it all, and we'll be back on the same trajectory as we were before. I'd really like to know who believes this. I've got some other fairy tales, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Cinderella, maybe a little bit of the Bernanke and the Yellens. Who knows? Whatever you're into, I've got a story for you. The solution, of course, that the government provides always, I mean, it's just terrible, but it's raising taxes. This is what they do because they don't know what else to do. They print a whole bunch of money, they give it to Apple, and then you have to pay higher taxes. Oh, don't worry, because it's just going to come from the millionaires. Yeah, that's right, just from the millionaires. If you found the video informative, hit that thumbs up button. When you do, you are supporting me. Thank you very much. If you want to learn how to sell stuff online, it is a free e-course, despite the comments that I've seen many times before. 100% free e-course, theamazongps.com. If you want to learn about the financial system, all the details you need to know in these two books, check it out, link in the description. If you want the audiobook, themoneygps.com. Wait a second, don't go anywhere. Have you seen this video? It's so good. There's so much information. Definitely watch it. Click it. I'll see you there.